Bagley, Harding, Johnson, Melton, Palermo, Rowe. Mr. President.
Here. Please rise for the pledge and I'll provide the opening remarks.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Just three short things today. I'll first say congratulations to the city of Kansas City and all the Kansas City Chiefs fans for winning the Super Bowl. I know we have a ton of Chiefs fans around the city here in Omaha. And I had some gratification in that my college roommate was from Philadelphia. Secondly, I'd say congratulations also to Steelhouse Omaha. They just announced their opening act, The Killers, which is a great band coming to Omaha on May 12th for their opening concert. So I encourage folks to come out and support a great new music venue here in Omaha. Tickets go on sale Friday. And then lastly, I'd just say happy Valentine's Day to everybody. In my house, that consists of me going home and making dinner for my girls, which is always a little bit risky. But I hope everyone has a great time with their friends and with their loved ones today and this evening.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here. Look forward to your testimony on our items. I would encourage you to turn your cell phones to vibrate or even off would be better.
Item 6, to consider a Class C liquor license for Palacio located at 3504 Center Street. A is communications in opposition. B is communications from the applicant.
Public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. Proponents, please.
Members of the council, Andrew Collins, Erickson Cedarstrom Law Firm, here on behalf of the applicant. I have the applicant's principal, Milt Schneider, here with me today. Palacio LLC is the owner of a building at 4305 Center Street. I know it as the former Emmy Gifford Children's Theater, so anybody who's grown up in Omaha remembers that building, I'm sure. What's going on at that building now is Mr. Schneider and his wife have bought it, and they are operating kind of a cultural and community center there. And the purpose of the liquor licensing is so that they can continue that operation and also operate as a wedding and other events venue. So the events would be primarily weekend events, special events, private parties, and those sorts of things. So that's the reason that we're asking for the liquor license here today. I want to thank Councilmember Begley, who's been in close contact with Mr. Schneider through this process. We've had a little bit of feedback. Frankly, some of it was unexpected, but Mr. Schneider has gone above and beyond what I think this council asks our liquor license applicants to do in terms of making clear his intentions to continue to uphold really the sterling record that we have in that part of town right now as far as those liquor establishments in that commercial district is concerned. Mr. Schneider has obviously reached out to Mr. Begley and interfaced extensively with him over the last couple of weeks. Attended a couple of, at least one HOA board meeting in order to address some of the neighborhood concerns. Personally canvassed the neighborhood over the last couple of days, knocking door to door to try to make sure that people understood what he intends to do with the building there and what the business is going to be about. And again, that's primarily bringing a community and cultural sense to that area through this process. Again, I think that Mr. Schneider has demonstrated his intent to be an impeccable neighbor. And while I understand there are some people who have some reservations about the type of business that's going to operate there, I think Mr. Schneider has addressed those. I think he will be a good neighbor. I think he intends to keep the sterling reputation of that area intact, and will do whatever it takes to make sure that happens to the satisfaction of this body and the neighbors and every other stakeholder that's involved in such a nice part of our city. We're obviously here to answer any questions you may have now or later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other proponents that want to speak today?
Hi, Council. My name is Melanie Phelan. I live at 1907 South 7th Street, and I own two businesses right next door to Palacio at 3528 Center and 3548 Center. And after touring his beautiful building last night and speaking with his wife, I'm in full support of this liquor license, and I believe that it will bring a really unique opportunity to the area that is not there right now. And I've run events and I've done events for 15 years. And I think based on the building and what it is, and the sound is not going to be an issue. I don't believe the alcohol will be an issue either, because most events in Omaha end 10, 11. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Andrew, can you come up, please, and Milt? Read your address for the record again one more time.
Andrew Collins, Erickson Cedarstrom, 10330 Regency Parkway Drive.
Milt Schneider, 4530 Manchester Drive, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. I am the owner of Palacio.
Thanks. Appreciate you both being here today. And as you mentioned, Andrew, the conversation we've had today and over the last several days. So I appreciate first, Milt, that you took the time. This is new to you, is when you and I talked at the beginning, and you made the efforts to reach out to me, corresponding businesses, the homeowners association. So a couple questions I just wanted to kind of get on the record with you. So when you and I talked and we attended the board of directors meeting in Field Club, you were open to them if they wanted to have their neighborhood meetings at your venue here. Is that still something you would agree to?
Oh, absolutely, as well as Hanscom and anyone else.
Okay.
Yeah, we are a community building.
And you would even, I'm assuming, want to attend some of those meetings as well, just to get a flavor of what's going on in Field Club and Hanscom as a business owner and a partner.
I would, as a significant business in the area. We have a number of cultural events that we would interface with. I know on Field Club, because we previously talked to them. The other thing is we're looking to form the business district's business group. So we would want to have a representative there to talk to them about any future events.
Okay, and we also talked about, I have a delicate balance as a council member to represent the interests of you. You don't live in the district, but you're welcome here. Any business that wants to open up, and I think I speak for all my colleagues up here, you don't have to reside in their districts. If you want to open a business, it's great for the city of Omaha, and I would certainly listen to and support that. When we went through this, the other delicate balance I have are neighbors, and you've already talked about that in your remarks, and your council did. So I'll go a little further. So Walnut Street, which I know you knocked several doors.
All of them,
You
except
knocked,
one.
Yep, you knocked the doors on Walnut Street. That was on Sunday, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you gave your contact information to the people you talked to.
Yes, sir.
You told them what your venue is going to be.
Yep.
What kind of neighbor you want to be, that you respect the neighborhood. Is that clearly put, that was discussed with you with the neighbors that you talked to?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I can assure you, as the elected council member that's representing this district, that is clearly number one on my list. So I do appreciate the outreach you did. And can you talk a little bit about the community meeting that you held from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock last night?
We held an open house for the building. We weren't really ready for it, but it was a good suggestion on your part. I believe we had 16 residents come through that were all in favor of it, and we had one person that was not in favor of it, and I don't think they ever will be. But yeah, the 16 that came through that were in favor, they were very excited. They brought their children with them. One was a former HOA president of Field Club, and they were very excited for it. And the names were all submitted to you this morning, and then the names from walking on Sunday on Walnut were submitted earlier, and then I have all the businesses in that area with their signatures as well.
Can you talk a little bit about, oh, I'm sorry, Council, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry. As I alluded to in my remarks, Mr. Schneider's response to the neighborhood to me has really been in keeping with what this city likes to see their liquor license applicants do. As soon as Mr. Schneider caught wind that there was some opposition, he got himself out. He went door to door. He held that open house, as you alluded to, Mr. Begley, to give those neighbors a chance to come and explain what their concerns are. And in addition to addressing those in that way and handing out his business card, as you've alluded to, he doesn't intend to hide or make this someone else's problem. He's here to be a good neighbor to these folks, and that's what he intends to do. But as a result of those conversations and that feedback from the neighbors, Mr. Schneider has agreed to amend the type of liquor license that he's applying for, and I should have pointed that out in my initial remarks.
I was going to get there for you, but that's okay. Go ahead.
We had initially applied for a Class C liquor license, which is sort of my default application as an attorney, because I want to afford my client the broadest possible scope so that the business can develop as it's going to develop. Obviously, hearing those concerns from some of the neighbors regarding the packaged liquor, Mr. Schneider was amenable to amend his application to a Class I license that won't allow for that packaged liquor in order to alleviate some of those concerns that we heard from the neighbors.
And if I can, counsel, since your client's paying you and the public is listening, tell us what an I license is. What does that entail?
The license would allow sale of wine, beer, and spirits on premise only versus the package license, which would allow essentially folks to buy and carry off the premises.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And Milt, when we talked also stressing the neighborhood, that community that Field Club has, we recognize that. I certainly have from day one when I decided to run for this council. Even growing up, I knew Field Club was very unique and special and prideful, like all of our neighborhoods are. But as a business owner, you want to exceed expectations. You don't want to be a middle of the road. You don't want to be, well, I'll do this or that. You want to be somebody that exceeds the expectations of the neighborhood, the families who live there, who want to be good community partners. Talk about the other businesses in the area that you spoke to that got support from and how those conversations went.
Well, the businesses almost signed immediately. I mean, I just asked them, we're filing for a liquor license, can I have your support? And the businesses immediately said yes. As to Andrew and the Class I, originally when we did file the Class C, you're well aware, there were neighbors that had concern about that. So when I walked the neighborhood and knocked the doors, 50% of the people that answered signed immediately. The other 50% were people that said something to the effect of, hey, what about the package part? And I said, handled. We amended to a Class I, and then within 2 minutes they signed as well. That seemed to be the biggest concern, that we were going to be a giant liquor store. And we're not that. You can't walk in and buy a 6-pack and walk out. I'm
Okay.
not that guy.
As to the business relationships, I think Milt is above all a businessman and a community member, and Milt understands that a rising tide raises all boats, and Milt does not serve himself or his business or this community by making enemies, and that's the last thing that Milt intends to do. Obviously, what is working in that neighborhood, part of what makes Field Club and the surrounding area such a special community, is the pride that all of those folks take in that part of our town, and I think Milt understands that, appreciates that, and is very eager to become a part of that among those other upstanding businesses, again with a sterling reputation in terms of what's going on in terms of business operations down there.
Okay, and one of the most important things is you alluded to, Milt, some neighbors aren't in support of this.
Yep.
So I'm trusting in you as a businessman that if this goes forward, you're going to want to earn and exceed the expectations of those that didn't even support you from the beginning. You can earn their trust by doing the things that you already know, being a good neighbor, being respectful of the neighbors. And we talked a little bit about the alleyway on the north side of your building there that butts up to Walnut and all those property owners there. After events that take place, do you pledge as a condition of several to make sure that the parking lots on the south side of Center that you own, on the west side of your property, and the alleyway, that your maintenance staff will make sure at the end of an event that it's picked up and it's clean, so it's being a good neighbor? That's an easy thing, but I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
It's a good neighbor thing, and it's essential to my business. My clientele is a higher clientele. No one is going to rent from us if we don't look appropriate. So there's a business interest, and then there is a neighbor interest. And I do consider us a neighbor of Field Club. And like any neighbor, we want to be accepted and we want to be appreciated. So yes, I can guarantee that, absolutely.
Okay, and we talked about security for your events. Can you talk about that to the council here today?
For the wedding events and the quinceañeras where alcohol is served, we would provide security, absolutely. And we bill the client for it, so it's not an adverse condition to our business.
Do you have an idea what kind of security you'll have?
My preference is to do an off-duty police officer that is bilingual, because most of our clientele are bilingual or in need of a bilingual officer.
Okay. Mr. Kuzi, I got a quick question for you, if you would, please.
Matt Kuzi, Law Department.
Mr. Kuzi, when establishments similar to this have wedding receptions, is it common or required by law or any ordinance that says they have to provide security at these events?
I'm not aware of any requirement that in the law, in the code or regulations or statutes that security is required.
Okay, thank you.
Danny, if I might,
Please.
this is a family venue. We're not putting the security there because we think there's a need. We're putting the security there just to make sure there's not a need. I need everyone to have a good time. I need everyone to go home. I need everyone to talk about my building. This is a preemptive move that I just think is prudent. I'm an ex-fireman. I haven't drank in 25 years, so a little different on the filing. But I have zero tolerance for bad behavior, nor do I want to be known for it. So this was just something that my wife and I decided was just a prudent, good behavior thing to do.
Okay, and I appreciate your answer on that as well, Milt. And we're getting to the end here, so I appreciate your patience, because there's important things I want to bring up. And one is, when you're having these events there, and people, if they want to congregate in the parking lot on the west side there especially, I think you know the theme I'm talking about here, where in respect to the dignity of those neighbors to the north of the alley, do you pledge to have your staff or security, when people are having a good time inside, that they're not going to take it out in the parking lot and blast their radio? And if that happens, do you have plans to address that?
That would be in their contract. The event is inside the building, not in the parking lot. And for most of the wedding and quinceañera events that we've participated in, that has not been an issue. I can see the possibility it would be addressed. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's one of the many important things here, that being extra respectful to those neighbors and the whole neighborhood for that matter. So I'm glad that you're on the record that you certainly want to do that.
Absolutely.
And you already said you would provide to the whole world, I'm not trying to promote you here, but your name and phone number. If there's any issues with the neighborhood people, if there's questions they got or issues, they're going to call Milton, and boom, right here. You will make yourself available for that.
Everyone I have talked to, whether you're in favor of it or not, has been giving my business card with my personal cell phone number on it. I absolutely want to know if there's an issue, because I want to address it before it becomes a major issue. Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's the things, as you go to the neighborhood meetings, you're going to preempt, because by being proactive as you're doing, and I'm not saying you're not, but you understand by doing that, when you go to the neighborhood association meetings, that the hope is you will earn the trust of the people that are against this. And that's a great step, if we go forward here today, to doing that. So a couple other questions I got. The parking lot, you own the parking lot on the south side of Center Street, east of Vis Major, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how many parking stalls are there?
The south lot is 78.
Okay, and I talked to you a little bit about the lighting there.
Yes, sir.
I spoke to your council this morning, I'm sorry. Do you have any plans on, it seemed a little dim when I've driven by there the last few nights at night. It's pretty dim, and that's certainly a safety concern for obviously the people going into the center, but also petty thieves breaking in cars. If there's no lighting,
Right.
or dim lighting, it's a problem that you're going to deal with. So
Yes, sir.
my question is, number one, do you have a plan to address the lighting in the parking lot on the south side of Center? And also, the rail ties and the surface in there, we talked a little bit about that. Can you touch on what your plans are going forward with those two items?
So for the lighting will be restored in there. We also plan on having cameras in there. The building is surveilled and digitally recorded. It maintains a month's worth of data on the building. And in the past, we have provided that to law enforcement for the things that have happened out on Center Street that are not related to us. The lot will be redone along with the building. We're currently getting the contractors together. We have the plan approval and the permits to renovate the interior of the building. The parking lot will be handled at the same time. Again, my clients want to come out and see what they're paying for.
Right, and do you have a time frame on roughly with the parking lot and the lighting?
I was hoping it'd all be done last year at this time.
Yeah.
We have a real desire to be operational by Cinco de Mayo.
Okay,
Whether we can get it all done with vendors and things like that, COVID, supply chain issues have been plaguing us. We've had parts 18 months out. So ASAP I want to be ASAP.
do you want to have the lighting in the parking lot done by Cinco de Mayo if that's the date you're open? When you say up and running, does that mean the lighting in the parking lot would be the cameras would be in and everything would be ready to go?
The cameras, I believe we have in stock. They've been difficult to get a hold of. It's a specialty camera. But yeah, that should be up and going. I need to contact the asphalt contractor again. We have a bid from them and verify when they can get started and when they can complete.
Okay.
Winter hampers that.
Okay, understood. Just a couple more questions, and I appreciate my colleagues' patience here today, as they always are. When I met with you at the beginning, you talked about some of the events of outreach you want to do to the communities. You mentioned to help homeless shelters or others that are in need by maybe a little food assembly line so you could deliver it to people that are in need in the community. Is that something you were touch on that a little bit about community outreach you want to do?
That is a personal interest of mine. Eventually, we want a commercial kitchen in the building, and we would reach out to the local high schools to get volunteers to prep food, and then, yeah, deliver it to the homeless. We're not bringing them to us, we're delivering it out there.
Okay.
I have a desire to reduce pain in the world.
That's certainly talks about earning the trust of not only the neighbors but the community. All the things we talked about here today are steps in that direction. And I look for you to be the man of your word, which I know you will be, and be able to deliver everything you talked about here today, because the neighbors are listening, the community's listening, and I certainly listen to everybody as I delicately balance everything for the neighborhood, for my district and the city of Omaha, to support all those groups and businesses, the jobs that you'll bring. Heck, I'll probably be going to some wedding receptions and events there if we proceed here today. As I was a little kid, I went there when it was a movie theater. When you took me through there, it brought back memories of being in that beautiful building. So one of the things, and this is probably the most important, is a condition of the liquor license. You know, you're gonna have music and you're gonna have weddings. I can't support this going until 1 a.m. to shut down the music and 2 o'clock to exit everybody from the building. I would be willing to, if you agreed, to shut the music down at midnight and have people off the premises by 1 a.m. with no alcohol being served after that. Is that something you would be agreeable to today?
We're not serving alcohol after 11.
So yes.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, the people that work there are like family to me. We don't want them there late. If we had to shut it down at 12 and everyone off premises by 1, I think I could work with that. I originally quoted we would stop alcohol at 11, and then at 1 we would kill the event. We give people 1 hour to clean up their debris and collect their wreaths and everything. And if you were to stay after that, we penalize you. We're holding your security deposit.
Okay, so you were agreeable to, just to be clear, no alcohol served after what time?
Let me
We're certainly willing to comply with the 12 o'clock suggestion that you
Would,
made.
would you do 11 o'clock? Because if you shut down alcohol at 11, and what time would the music stop?
The building is computer controlled, so we can attenuate the sound to whatever level we need to automatically with no human interference. So it's a concrete building. I mean, it would take a lot to get sound out of there. We can tone it down to where it would be tolerable in this room. To completely turn it off would be difficult. But we're willing to go outside the building when the system's installed and measure the decibels and make sure we've got it. But shutting down at midnight, I think that's doable. It's a pretty stout building.
Okay, I don't have any questions for now.
Thank you. I don't see, Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Well, I just want to say for a venue, normally we're dealing with bars that are going to be open till 2 a.m. that people don't want people taking things, or convenience stores where people can buy the alcohol and buy small things and then they're out throwing it in people's yards. I mean, this is the limited venue.
Yes.
I think that we would love to see, and in fact, you've got a class I, so this is for, actually, it'd be very controlled times because I see it's weddings and birthday parties and things like that. So I firmly support the midnight limitation, although bars get to stay open till 2, and typically they cause a lot more problems than what your venue, I think, ever could conceive of. And the fact that you had another business owner that owns 2 businesses come down to testify, I think speaks highly of what you're doing. But this is the kind of limited liquor license that we would love to see more of. So I firmly support what you're trying to do. And if you're willing to go along with the midnight, I'm not asking for it, but I'll support it, and I support your liquor license.
Thanks for your comments. I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of controlled. I mean, most of these events are going to have security there. There's not going to be any package or takeaway liquor, so I agree with your comments.
Thank you. Now for the lights, Mr. Bagley, do you have a motion?
I just want to clarify, Milton, so you're going to stop alcohol serving at what time?
I think he said midnight and shut
Okay.
it down.
And everything shut down at midnight?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, so alcohol shuts down and everybody's out at midnight? I'm just verifying.
I've got to get them to the doors.
Okay,
Yeah.
so alcohol shut down at midnight and people will be off the premises by 1?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, I make a motion to advance and support this with the stipulations.
I just have one question, because it sounds like the stipulation includes that nobody can be in the building after 1, which I'm not,
No patrons.
yeah,
I have
I
staff
just wanted
in
to
there.
clarify that it, I mean, that they
Right.
wouldn't be violating their liquor license if the owner's in the building
Cleaning.
cleaning or doing whatever. You could have your cleaning people coming
We do,
at
yes.
2 a.m.
And I guarantee you they will not make noise.
Good clarification. I think that's the intention, and I think, Mr. Bigley, with understandings you have on the record there, I think what you're saying is it's something you'd support, but then you'd need to amend to a Class I if that's your desire.
That is correct.
So motion to amend to Class
Motion to
I.
amend to a Class I.
Motion and a second. Are there any further comments needed on those stipulations, or are those included in this motion? Okay, so this is to amend to a Class I. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
And then it'd be as amended with the stipulations, is that correct?
Correct.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 7, an ordinance to rezone property located at 7116 and 7126 Northland Drive from DR District and R1 District to R1 District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, I'm Matt Andrus. I live at 7116 Northland Drive. That is a home that I live in with my wife. And the property that I'm asking to be rezoned is the lot next to us that we're splitting with the neighbor just to the north of that. So,
Here to answer questions. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing closed. There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson is not present. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
thank you.
Item 8, an ordinance to rezone property located at 3131 South 72nd Street from GO District to CC District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, I'm Lindy Rogers with Houston Engineering, 12702 Westport Parkway, Suite 300, Omaha, Nebraska. And I am here on behalf of the developer and the residential company that will be buying this property, Midwest Fidelity Partners. This has gone through, as you mentioned, the planning board and gotten approval through them. And the rezoning is on the city's land use master plan as well.
Okay.
So just here to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 9, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate into that district the property located at 3711 North 90th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearings on agenda items number 10 through 12 were held on February 7th. No further lights. Is there a motion? I'll second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
There's been a request to remove item number 25 from the consent agenda. So first, we'll take, 26-2, which needs to be amended. So we'll take 25 and 26 off the consent agenda. So first, we'll have the public hearings on agenda items number 13 through 24 and 27. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. Seeing none, those public hearings are closed. Mr. Harding, you're recognized. Did you intend to be? Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 25, a resolution to approve the appointment of Joseph Poggi as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals from February 14th, 2023 to February 13th, 2026.
The public hearing on number 25 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a council representative, my responsibilities include ensuring our board's commission is made up of the people we serve. Mr. Fanslow, I appreciate you providing us a copy of the application for this position along with the resume. I have no doubt that Mr. Pogue certainly qualifies, and that's in good working order for me. Again, as my opening statement indicated, I have a responsibility to ensure that these boards and these commissions are reflective of the people that we serve in the city of Omaha. So with that being said, I just want to echo those sentiments and basically reinforce the sentiments of a diverse community. And this is something that not just City Councilwoman Juanita Johnson is citing. Other scholars are telling our communities why this is so important, such as Cornell University. In an article they read, an organization is only as good as its culture. And building that culture is not only a role for HR, it's every manager's and employee's responsibility. As today's headlines prove, an inclusive work environment is not just a nice to have, it can make or break a company. You can help make your organization a more supportive or engaging place to work by understanding the perceptional institutional. Also, another point of view regarding the impact or the significance of a diverse team. A diverse team is a group of individuals who have different backgrounds and skills that work together as a team to achieve company goals. They might have differences regarding age, ability, nationality, ethnicity, religious background, personal history, professional background, skills, gender, or political preference. All of these different components of characteristics that consist of the various people within the city of Omaha is extremely important because the role that we play in the city of Omaha, we are making a number of decisions daily and rapidly. And these decisions do impact residents in this community. So again, I say, having a diverse group of individuals on these boards and commission is extremely important because they will impact the livelihood of residents in our community. So I have the following questions. How diverse is this team that we're trying to appoint Mr. Pogge to, Mr. Fansalaw?
Members are.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to my reference point. Differences. We're talking about age, we're talking about ability, we're talking about nationality, we're talking about ethnicity, religious background, personal history, professional background, skills, gender, or political preferences. This is what we look at when we're looking at diverse group, making sure that all of these backgrounds and skills are being represented in the room so that we can ensure fair and equitable consequences. So I've given you what I'm looking for in terms of characteristics, different backgrounds and skills. You have how many members on this committee?
The Zoning Board of Appeals is made up of 5 permanent members and 2 alternates.
Okay, out of those 5 members, do you, you can talk about their age. Do you have 2 that's 60, over the age 60? You could talk about whether their ethnicity is European descent or African American descent. You have I've given you a variety of opportunities to demonstrate what their characteristics are.
Sure. So I don't have that information available.
Okay.
I don't have knowledge of those things you ask.
So it would be very difficult for us to select members to add on to these committees and continue to say that we are looking at diverse groups when we have no idea what the makeup of these committees are in terms of ethnicity, backgrounds, and things of that nature. If we have no idea what that looks like, how can we intentionally look and seek for different backgrounds?
I would say that this position that is in front of you today filled out all the required paperwork that the city asks of a person who's going to volunteer, an unpaid volunteer for a board who's not a city employee.
But it's my understanding that we are, as the city of Omaha, we're trying to promote inclusiveness and diversity. In fact, we're paying a group or an organization to help us get to where we want to be in that regard. So we're saying that that's what we want, but when we talk about action, that's what I'm calling the question to. And my first question was, how diverse is this how diverse is this team? And
I
now,
can list off the members' names for you if you'd like me to.
can you send me a email with the answer to that since you were not prepared?
I don't know what you're asking me for. I told you I don't have the information that you've requested. I can give you the names of the board members. They're available on our website. You could go look today. So the names of the board members are on our website. That's the only information that as the planning director I have.
Okay, to me, that doesn't sound like we're being transparent to our community if we don't know what that looks like, Mr. Fanslaw.
Well, I guess you're entitled to your own opinion.
And I thank you for making that abundantly clear. Do you think your promotion and evaluation process within your department is diverse?
I'm not going to answer that question. It has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the item in front of this board today. So I'm not going to have that conversation today.
You have every right to not answer that question, but I say to you that members of this community is listening to you.
That's perfectly fine.
Thank you. Do you think that we as a city celebrate diverse ideas and people?
Again, it's not my position to answer that question.
How well does HR work towards hiring candidates from unrepresented groups?
So, Ms. Johnson, I understand the point you're making, but I think we better keep the remarks to this particular appointment or the appointment process, right?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be voting no on this position.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Excuse me.
No further lights.
Excuse me.
Public hearing's closed.
When you take it off, you could.
No, Larry, you cannot yell from the audience, okay?
What?
You cannot yell from the audience. Please sit down and remain seated until you have a chance to speak.
You took it off the consent agenda.
Nope.
Which opens it up to the.
Sorry,
public.
Larry, we like having you here, but not when you're gonna yell from the
Once again,
audience.
you need
That's
to
not
resign.
permitted.
And the citizens have a right to know.
There's a
what's
motion and a
being
second,
said. You don't turn up
properly
the
made
volume.
and properly
I've
processed.
asked you a number of times.
Roll call.
Turn up the volume.
Bagley,
Stop kicking your
Harding.
citizens out. It's a freedom.
Johnson,
Freedom of.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1. Item 26, a resolution to approve the agreement with Midwest Storage Solutions, Inc. for moving services needed for the Omaha Public Library at 1401 Jones Street.
Public hearing on number 26 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Palermo, you're recognized. Are you on number 26?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Are you an opponent?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. Mr. President, I am trying to find contingency funds for the transportation and reorganization of the libraries that are happening during this time. If I can find where you guys are at expending the budgets for these movements, I would appreciate that. I'm looking for contingency money, $60,000. I don't know if this item. Oh, here it is. It's $24,000. I'm looking for more than $24,000. Maybe I need to talk to library facilities.
Sounds like.
Okay. Is there like a project management chart that you guys are operating on how
So
this is
we've
moving?
got these kind of questions we can talk afterwards, or set you up with the finance director? This
I
particular item is
I
not-
recommend that these kinds of approvals and movements follow a project management chart, so
Okay.
that you can visually, like somebody like me, can visually understand where you're at.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. And I will ask a question here in a minute about the finance source. Unless Mr. Palermo does first, who has the floor? Public hearing's closed.
Let me gather myself. I got lost there for a second. Thank you, Mr. President. Is there somebody here to answer a question on item number 26 from the city?
I can answer Andrew Brott, City Finance, any finance questions related.
Okay. Well, it's a finance question and a question about the process. Marco, sure you're ready about this question?
It's a professional moving services item, moving collections from 84th Street Library Administrative Building to 1401 Jones Street. Not all our owners rep sent this out for bid. HR&R noted at the time this was first place on council that the vendor was missing their CC1 form. HR&R has confirmed that there is a CC1 form on file. It was amended by City Finance, and they were requested the expense, we expense it instead of capitalizing it, and they can speak more of the details.
And Marco, just your name for the record, too.
Marco Floriani, the Mayor's Office.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here. If finance wanted to add to that statement as well.
Andrew Brott, City Finance, yeah, we moved the funding source from a capital fund to the general fund and operating fund because it was determined that it was not capitalizable.
Okay, thank you. So it's nothing new. We see something about the library on our agenda. Although, like I said a couple weeks ago, they've certainly slowed down now, not as rushed. But my question would be, the financing part of this was changed. What do we anticipate to spend on this library move? I mean, if I had to add up all the agenda items of the temporary library, the new library, I mean, what are we still within budget of this library move to 1401 Jones Street?
Yeah, we're within Andrew Brott, City Finance. We're within kind of the estimated budget that we have that we built. In 2023, we did build in the items that we did know about. We built in, the rents and the various expenses that we were aware of at the time. In any type of capital project like this, though, there is stuff that comes up later that we've tried to set up some contingencies for. But we did build whatever we knew was coming in the 2023 budget, and that's why library's budget went up considerable amount in 2023.
Okay, thank you, because I find myself in a spot where now that the library is moved and we are all dedicated to making sure this new library at 1401 Jones is what the city deserves, I also find myself in a spot asking and scratching my head, how much money are we going to spend? It's like an unlimited pot of what is necessary for this to happen, which is a good point. But again, maybe Marco, you and the mayor's office could get a list of what we see moving forward instead of every single agenda having library costs on it, to make sure we don't go over budget on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Brott, just for clarification too, so there's an amendment on number 26 that would be considered here in a minute. And what that does is it does not change the amount, but it changes the funding source from the capital fund to the general fund. Is that correct?
Andrew Brott, City Finance, yes, that's correct.
And that paperwork is in front of all council members and also will be attached to the city council's website. Okay. No further lights.
Does it just go to 26? Yeah, move the amendment of 26.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1. Correct.
Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1. Items 28 and 29 can be considered together. Resolutions to approve professional service agreements for improvements to Fontenelle Park Pavilion and for the Lynch Park renovation Phase 1 project.
Public hearing and vote on number 28 and 29 are today. Proponents, please.
You want to go first? You can go after you. Not after you. Oh, okay, thank you. I'll let you go because now it's special to me.
Council President, members of the council, Matt Kalsovich, Park and Recreation Director, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents on 28 and 29?
Donnie Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation, and number 28. I'd like to speak about Mr. Fredrickson is the park of my early education elementary. And that's where we beat Benton in debate, Benton in football, Benton in basketball, and we had a submarine to play with after school in our program. And we was allowed to, I'm trying to figure this out, when I was studying Mark Twain, to elaborate, to make a point. So I wasn't here on the 7th, so this is African History Month, African American history. So you may have forgotten it because of Kansas City beating, who was that? Philly. I was so busy trying to figure out some things about downtown Omaha and this new Mutual Omaha building and why the federal government keeps sticking their nose in Nebraska and Omaha business, especially the FBI when I told them, you guys are about as dumb as you come.
All right, you got to stick to the park project here,
In the
right, Mr.
meantime-
Johnson? It's at the, so you're in favor of the Fontenelle Park Pavilion, right?
Yes, because they let us elaborate and debate to make a point, and that submarine we played with after school at Fontenelle Park, down Periscope, up Periscope, preparing us to be on the submarine. But instead of that, I told the captain and the admiral of the Navy, I'm going to fly one of them jets when I get back to Nebraska, so I'll get me a job at Eppley as a Boeing pilot. Which one you prefer? Benson Park, that we competed and beat and everything, and you're going to sell Benson Golf Course to us so we can also, I think what Mr. Johnson was trying to say, do not put Frank Brown on any more committees. He screwed up Albertson.
All right, thank you. Any other proponents on number 28 and 29? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Mr. President. Matt, you got a couple minutes, please?
Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director.
Good afternoon, Matt.
Hello.
Item number 29, the Phase 1 of Lynch Park. Great information in here. You want to just give a little synopsis of the great work we're going to be investing in. As I note, it's right on the border of my district and my friend Councilman Palermo on the south side of Martha's. So everybody in the city, particularly our districts, will be benefiting from the great work that you're going to tell us about here.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, so these two items are a progression of ARPA-related projects that you've seen up to this point. We've been sharing information with the community about as they progress. And so with Lynch Park in particular, moving forward on Phase 1 and what it was the traditional use area of the park, this is really getting into that exciting next step of some of the engineering for the reset of the baseball field, the open turf area, the hard surface area with some different features, skateboarding, futsal, basketball, and the parking infrastructure. Again, really trying to bring that back into a position with this Phase 1 project, paving the way for what we envision as a possible Phase 2 past our ARPA funding. But again, a reactivation of that initial or primary space of the park, and just the function there returning to what it was, with obviously the upgrades that would be complemented by the $3 million allocation for the Phase 1 through ARPA, of which this funding is included.
I just wanted to see if you did your homework, so I can see you did as always. I know as a kid playing baseball down there, it's great to see the things you talked about, but the ball field improvements, backstops, dugouts, benches, bleachers, the turf in the infield and lighting. You talked about the skate park, basketball half court, trails and paths, the sidewalks, open lawn area. I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful venue, even when the Wooden Apple was down there on 22nd and Martha. Great pizza there, but a lot of changes down there. This is included with the great rejuvenation going on in our city, but down in that part of town, it'll be a beautiful addition and the beautification of the park in this Phase 1 that I appreciate all the work that you put into this in the Parks Department, and we're putting the dollars to good use that'll pay tremendous dividends for people and families to enjoy that in the generations to come, like I did as a kid. So thanks, Matt.
Our pleasure. It's prime with opportunity, and this is an exciting next step to really seeing that all come to reality.
Thank you. And I'll make a motion to support number 28. Oh, they got to be both together? Okay. Motion to support 28, 29, of course.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Matt, if you could please elaborate on what the plans are for Fontenelle. Thank you.
Absolutely. So similar situation. Fontenelle is maybe a step behind in the process. This is really us moving on now from some of our earlier exploration to evaluating what some of the new possibilities in the facility can be. Primary goal with the reset of the facility, first and foremost, is our rentable space on what we call our main floor and a pavilion that is highly used. And so wanting to ensure the quality and condition of that stays at a high level for community use, but exploring some of the other aspects of the building as well. And with any of our ARPA projects, through our exploration, if we're led to a decision where maybe we need to do more, we know funding from whether it be CIP or other resources can be combined with those ARPA dollars. So we're just trying to make sure we take advantage of everything that we're working on to the fullest extent, and this is a great example of that with Fontenelle.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 30, an ordinance to accept the bid of Miller & Sons golf cars in the total amount of $340,896 for the lease of 106 gas-powered golf cars.
Public hearing on number 30 is today. Proponents, please.
Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Donnie Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. To be fair, Mr. President, Benson did beat us in swimming. I'll give you that. So, this here, the golf, If they close Fountainelle, can you guys give us that new theater that's on North Omaha that's closed that Frank Brown them screwed up?
So this is about leasing golf carts, right? You have to
Yeah,
keep
but
it
right
to-
up the street
keep
on
it to that
72nd and
topic.
Crown Point is a theater there that was Frank Brown. I told him he screwed it up. He gave Target this,
Mr.
and then
Johnson, you
Alps-
got to keep it to this topic, please.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you guys get the golf course, can we have that building? Because we want to put a Peace Corps and a USDA office there.
The golf course is not for sale. This is about a lease of golf carts.
But the city owns that building, that the theater that's just now closed. Can y'all give us that? Okay, you don't own that?
You're on the wrong topic.
I know Frank Brown screwed it up because I told him. I was going to look, Frank. I'm going to kick you off the city council for screwing up like this.
All right. Any other proponents on number 30? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Matt, if you would, just take a question briefly. So as I was mentioning there, this is the lease of what would be 106 gas-powered golf courts for our golf courses.
Correct.
And it's a lease for 4 years. My only question this morning to you was, did we consider the option of electric golf carts instead?
Yes, Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director. We have explored that. At this point, the price point of updating our infrastructure to accommodate an electric fleet is just beyond what, at this point, the model as an enterprise program is able to support. That is something we're continuing to evaluate really every year, and we're hoping that we actually get to a tipping point where some of that could be a reality for us, and as we look to maybe improve or expand some of our facilities at golf courses, especially in regards to maintenance and storage, that's always part of our review. At this point, this approach here on what we're doing is one, to keep the fleet in the best condition possible for service to our users and our clientele, but also some financial stability over the next few years as we deal with some other rising costs of at least being able to nail down what we know to expect as far as our cart lease system is concerned.
Okay. So I appreciate you did look into that option, but at this point, what you found is it's not cost feasible.
Cost prohibitive, for sure.
Okay. Thanks for that. And I would just, add, I guess, that I think these are the kind of conversations and analysis we should have when we start talking about our city facilities. And I understand a climate action plan consultant is only a couple weeks out from the council, hopefully. And when that occurs and when that plan gets presented, I think these are the kind of conversations I want to see happen throughout city government about what those options can be, and is there a more favorable option to pursue in cases like this. Or I see Mr. Tyler in the audience too, that the great project a couple weeks ago that Public Works is doing around our biosolids. That'd be a very favorable project in terms of I think what a climate action plan would look upon. So I appreciate the analysis you did on it.
In regards to golf function, there are some baby steps that we're evaluating, whether it be our service carts or some of our ADA carts for that golf population, and some of those are electric and a little more achievable in terms of cost or the difference between some of the traditional gas-powered vehicles. So all of those things are part of our assessment every time we're looking to modify or improve golf operations.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
And I just wanted to make a comment too. We charge people to rent the golf carts, so although this is an expenditure, we should collect the revenue to equal or even exceed the cost of the leasing of the golf carts. Is that correct?
And that is correct, yes, and that is part of just the total offset as far as balancing revenue and expenditures for the enterprise model. That being said, at this point, we would probably be pricing ourselves out of the market in terms of comparable service at other golf courses in the area if we were to move to an electric to cover that cost. Again, just really trying to assess all things as far as our cost model and the accessibility for clientele and people looking to us to meet their golf interest needs.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make that point. A lot of times we have expenditures and we don't talk about potentially we're collecting revenue to cover
Correct.
those.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. No further lights. Next item.
Item 31, an ordinance to create Section 23-572 of Chapter 23 of the Omaha Municipal Code for special pay 401A plan and health reimbursement arrangement plan for the Professional Fire Service Manager Association.
Public hearing on number 31 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 32, an ordinance to approve an agreement with the Women's Center for Advancement in the amount of $49,171.18 and to authorize funding from the City of Omaha's fiscal year 2019 Stop Violence Against Women Grant Award.
Public hearing on number 32 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 33, an ordinance to approve an agreement with Douglas County in the amount of $110,471 and to authorize funding from the City of Omaha's fiscal year 2021 Stop Violence Against Women Grant Award.
Public hearing on number 33 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 34, an ordinance to approve the one-year option in a contract with Silverstone Group, Inc.
Public hearing on number 34 is today. Proponents, please.
Kristen Cavill, City Benefits Manager, here to answer any questions you might have.
Deb Sander, Human Resources, here to answer questions you may have.
Thanks. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 35, an ordinance to approve a streetscape maintenance agreement with the Noddle BD1 LLC for 1501 Mike Fahey Street.
Public hearing on number 35 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Todd Swarzek, Noddle Companies, 2285 South 67th Street, just here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 36, an ordinance to approve an interlocal agreement with the Village of Boys Town for the upgrades and maintenance of the traffic signal system located at 137th Street and West Dodge Road eastbound ramp.
Public hearing on number 36 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 37, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 43139, vacating the east-west alley within Block 1, Kent's Addition.
Public hearing on number 37 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 38, an ordinance to approve a wastewater service agreement with the City of Carter Lake, Iowa.
Public hearing on number 38 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 39, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 42776 to acquire private property for the 2022 various signal projects.
Public hearing on number 39 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 40, an ordinance to approve addendum number 2 to service contract with Deloitte & Touche LLP for ARPA funds.
Public hearing on number 40 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. Before I begin, I do not want you, Mr. President, to be editorializing my comments on this, because I know I'm going to be on topic. I would like to see Deloitte come in and make a presentation on how the city used the ARPA funds. Have them come in and use local people. Deloitte should come in with local people and have a presentation about the ARPA funding and how it has been used. Particularly, what were the categories that the funds went to, and the timeline of those expenditures. At the beginning of your agenda, there's a spot for a presentation, and I don't know if you've ever used it. That would be a good time for Deloitte to come in with their local people. Maybe in a resolution. You've used a resolution as a way to have a discussion with a constituency. So that'd be my suggestion, but it seems to me that you're going to be paying Deloitte more money, and this could be like a one-off for them to come in and finally do a presentation with local people. Okay. They're local people.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 40? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. I did have a question about this one. Mr. Broad, it's probably for you. I forgot to ask this morning. My understanding is this contract is with Deloitte and Touche primarily to manage what would be the allocation of $2 million in ARPA funds to business improvement districts. It would be a grant application process by which current BIDs in the city could compete for those funds. That's the idea with this contract, right?
I don't know a ton about it. I do know it was for, the reference that you made, it was for 3 new programs that they currently were not contracted to take care of. So they are new. What they're supposed to be doing is helping us gather some information and compiling some information, and then we will then present that to the city council for approval if we go down that road. So even approving this contract doesn't mean it just approves them to do some additional work for us, but the council would have to approve the remainder of the 3 projects, the Performing Arts, the Business Improvement District, and the Economic Development Program.
And what was that last one?
The Omaha Economic Development Corporation Program.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think I understand those projects, and I think they've been discussed with the city council before. Primarily, the reason I was asking is because we do have a lot of neighborhoods interested in the Business Improvement District grant process, and I understand that why this would be needed to manage that process, which can be a little bit labor-intensive with uses and proposed sources and how they may get expended to make sure everything's in compliance. I don't think you're probably an expert in that timeline, are you?
I don't. I can certainly get information on that from like the ARPA team if you'd like.
Sure. And I think the short answer is it's still coming, and a request for proposals would be issued pretty soon. I think they're all just kind of keeping an eye on it to know when they're able to apply, and I think that's the message, that should this move forward next week, that program is then forthcoming. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
No further lights. Madam Clerk.
Non-action items, items 41 through 64 do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on agenda for consideration.
Second, roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Johnson. Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:11.